Hi, I'm Terry Bozzio. Welcome to Drum Channel. Today we have a special guest here from Chicago. His name is Mike Semerau. And Mike is a professional teacher and has a very large clientele of students up there in Chicago. I met him recently when I was up there for the grand opening of Vic's Drum Shop, which Victor Salazar's been my friend for many, many years and has one of the best drum shops in the world up there. And we here at Drum Channel are really concerned about the education aspect of our edutainment site. And we want to involve local teachers, and we want to get as many people interested in furthering themselves as drummers, not only for our own benefits so we can get subscribers, but just to keep the art of drumming alive. There's a lot of cutbacks in schools, and you don't get an education there. The sort of commercial aspect of the drumming and drumming or musical instrument sort of area of the business is so sort of aimed at just volume and selling and not really following up. And so, what's the point of every kid in America having a drum set in his garage if he can't really play it? Or if the kind of music that he does play is sort of substandard as a result of just, well, I got, my dad to buy me a kit, but I don't know what I'm doing, so let's make a lousy band and have some fun and kind of go nowhere with it. And it's a great thing to have dreams and to be able to get this equipment and have it readily available, and we're all grateful for that. But bottom line is, for me and for a lot of guys my age, there was a little bit more of a commitment involved and a little bit more of a discipline that we had to adhere to in order to really make it happen. It wasn't so easy to make it. Of course, everybody wanted to be like the Beatles, and that's why all my friends and I got in a band and bought musical instruments. But at the same time, my father said, hey, you're going to start just with a pair of sticks and a practice pad and a couple of books and take some lessons. So that's how I started. And because I had the enthusiasm, I was able to continue on and become who I am with the guidance of some great teachers and the school systems of, music in the schools was available to me my last year of high school, and I majored in music in college at College of Marin. So that's why we want to have you on. You have a great, what is it, over 400 students there?
Over 300
over
in
300
10 locations, different parts of Illinois.
Right, so then you really sort of franchised this and made a...
and I'm still doing it. I'm trying to, get as many students as possible. I try to do things that are different. I offer a weekly video program. My entire lesson plan is video library based. Each and every week, whatever, myself or one of my top guys that are teaching for me, a student, each week we work with the student one-on-one. The curriculum's custom tailored to their level and their ability to get them to be a good drummer fast. So, with the video program, whatever we teach, hands-on before they leave each week, they get that segment, which was done in a recording studio, and they get to take that reference aid home for reviewing.
Yeah, excellent.
So it's pretty cool. So it speeds up the learning process, and it also motivates them and inspires them. On the video, I'll take a fill or a beat and, break it down slow, note for note. One day it could sound like this. Maybe you could add it to this lesson that you've learned before, put the two together. Here's a bonus lesson. We actually, I'll throw in like an extra thing that's not even part of the one-on-one. It's just like a thing that you got to watch the video for. And they get motivated. Their ear-to-ear smiles, and they're just loving it. And then they stick with the lessons, and it keeps them motivated. When I took lessons in 1979 with a teacher, Eric Leckberg, we worked in a book. He wrote stuff out. And when I was with him, I understood the stuff. Give it 2-3 days, and I start second-guessing. Am I reading this right? Is the rhythm right? Am I doing this right? And then I think I was, and practiced it that way all week. Next lesson, I can't wait to show it to him, and I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So when I got into this whole teaching thing, I didn't want to waste any time, waste the motivation or the money for the parents, or if they're adult, paying for it. They're going to learn the right way each and every time. because I'm playing it on the video. If it doesn't sound like what I'm doing, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So that way we're always moving ahead on new things and never backtracking.
Yeah. We're constantly saying there's no replacement for the one-on-one feedback you get from a good local teacher, and we're always trying to get our subscribers involved in doing that. But what would your feedback be for us as Drum Channel?
I think what Drum Channel's doing is a great thing. Like, if I was a kid, growing up, listening and learning from you, how awesome it would have been to be able to take a lesson. If not one-on-one, this is the next best thing, And I think it's great. And I actually tell my students about the Drum Channel, with me being on, that, you like Red Hot Chili Peppers? Chad Smith's on there giving a few lessons. Go on there and learn something from them, So I think it's a great thing. As far as what I could suggest or anything, it's just getting the name out, getting the marketing, doing what you're doing. As far as like levels and stuff, even me, I'm not musically trained. I didn't go to school for it. I had 2 years of lessons, and then everything else was self-taught by listening and watching, getting instructional DVDs, finding out what this person's known for, learning that chop, taking it, changing it, make it mine, and then now I teach it.
The drumming community is a very unique bunch of individuals, and there's no one set way to do this. We have some, my approach is to kind of take what I've learned from classical music and what I've learned from jazz and improvisation, and maybe ethnic percussion from around the world, and apply it towards the drum set. So I use science and intellect and theory, but it's also got this. The sort of goal of it is to encompass this conceptually, so that you can then kind of let go and have some fun and play with the elements.
I'm all about that whole taking things from different genres and ethnic styles. Like, for instance, when I was growing up, after I had the lessons, my mom took the lessons away. I didn't think I was going to stick with it. I was 7. And here I am today, still playing. So I had no choice but to learn off of like my mom's Beach Boys and my dad's Elvis Presley, and then my sister's REO Speedwagon, and then I would start getting into, all I wanted to play was rock, and then I didn't start getting into funk and jazz until I was about 18. So I was playing drums about 13 years. And then when I sat down and I tried to play like a triplet on my right hand, and like a funk groove, I couldn't do it. I was like, something's going on. I need to look into this. And then now I could do so many cool things that help me with other styles. And then I started getting into like taking like African drumming and Indian tribe drumming and Kodo drumming, Japanese drumming, and really listening to that and just learning the rhythms that they're playing and try to incorporate it on the drum set. And now I have a really cool style, like a tribal drum style, that a lot of my students like when we get into those types of lessons. And I'm like, hey, this came from African drum rhythms and Kodo drumming and stuff like that.
And that opens them up, keeps them.
And when I do clinics, I look like the total rock guy, and then I'll pop on a play along that's like, all right, I'm going to play along and just kind of make something up to this like funk thing. And then here's trumpets and be funking it up, and comes out good. And people are like, at the end of the clinic, man, you would not think you're right. You're totally stereotyped. You could hold your own doing the funk, And I said, you need to know the different styles or understand different styles to help you as a player, I think. And then you're a more sought after player for a band, So I try to explain to my guys who just want to play rock or metal or punk, I'm like, you're going to learn this. This is a jazz thing. This is a blues thing. And this is how you could incorporate it. Let's take the jazz thing with the right hand, do the double bass thing with our feet, and put the two together, and you get this. And then like, oh, man, it's awesome, So I think that's important, too, is to be well-versed and listen to any style and be open-minded and watch everybody that plays drums or an instrument. I think it definitely will help you.
Do you think what we have available on Drum Channel could be used in addition to your curriculum? Like, you could use what we have as part of your teaching curriculum? Like we have, Ralph Humphrey has all these things on basic techniques and stuff. There's tons of lessons, and they're all sort of organized in various
That's exactly what I do.
hands and feet. Joe Porcaro's got the reading thing. And I'm just wondering if that would be an asset to you and other teachers to say, okay, this week we're gonna, I want you to look at what we have on Drum Channel in
Yep.
this category here, and just like study on that. Or this week we're gonna look at what Neil Peart did on Drum Channel.
Yeah, or like, you know, what we're doing today, if you want to excel or try another version of this style, go to Drum Channel and check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little about yourself, where you're from originally, how you got into it, and
Well, I'm from north side of Chicago, born and raised. You know, lived there the first 15 years of my life, and then I moved to the suburbs in high school. In 1979, I was 4 going on 5, and we had a neighborhood family friend in that north side of Chicago. And there was a different kid in each group of my sister's age, she's older, and myself, and there was 4 kids there. One of them played guitar, and he was about 8 years older than me. So I would go over there and play with the friend of the sister that was my age and hang out, and I'd hear him playing his Randy Rhoads and playing with his band in the basement, and I was just fascinated with him. And I actually wanted to play guitar at first, but he talked to me about getting into the drums because he always wanted to play drums. Drums were too loud. His parents wouldn't let him. I should be a drummer, and maybe we could jam one day. So here I am, little kid, want to play the drums now, and really got into it. Took the lessons, and just been going ever since. I did the lessons with Eric Leckberg for 2 years, and then I did some orchestra band, and did that for a year, and then I would just watch you and get into all different types of bands, like as far as influences, Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, Dennis Chambers, Tommy Lee, Tommy Aldridge, Alex Van Halen, Philly Joe Jones, Terry Bozzio, it's a little bit of everybody. And I would get videos and Simon Phillips and try to learn from these instructional videos and learn certain things. And I mean, it just kept fueling the fire. And I just started loving it, and now I'm still doing it and loving it every minute of this.
yeah. And now, in terms of bands and people you play with around Chicago, do you have certain styles and
Yeah,
aspects
I
you
like to play. I like to play rock. I like to play in rock bands. I've done industrial metal before, sequencing and stuff like that. Really got into that, which is really fun to do. Now I'm kind of more of an independent guy. Right now I'm working with a guitar player who we're looking for a singer and a bass player, and I'm ready to get back into start playing with an original project to get out there and play live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll do recordings and be a hired gun.
Yeah.
I don't know, got a family now. The whole dream of being a rock star dwindled 11 years ago. So I'm living on my drumming, and I have a wonderful family, and they're very supportive. And I'm happy with that. I don't need to be in a band, to make me happy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. I've been very lucky and found my way into being able to perform and teach sort of in the clinic realm and solo performances, and being sponsored by drum and cymbal companies. I've just garnered a sense of independence from other people. And, and meanwhile, while we've been doing this, you in your way and me in my own way, the music business has totally changed. And it is not one of these things that's, so easy to do anymore. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of commitment that has to be involved, and there's very few opportunities.
There's a lot of politics, too.
Yeah, I mean, the whole industry has crumbled. It's coming back, but no one knows how exactly it's coming back. Right now, we're in a position where guys like me who have content are pirated of their content on the internet. But on the other hand, say from maybe 20 years ago or so, a guy like me who had a name could start to, build a website and sell, because I was with Frank Zappa and I'm known around the world, sell his music, to some place he's never even been because of my affiliation with this great guy. And those kinds of gigs aren't so readily available anymore, when I was coming up, if you got a gig with Miles Davis or Weather Report, you were some of the greatest guys in the world, and same thing with Frank Zappa and the kind of rocker. I mean, what genre was he in? He really kind of bridged classical with jazz and rock, and you had to play. So, those kinds of bands don't necessarily have people coming through them all the time, that one can garner a name. I came from nowhere in San Francisco. Yeah, I was a good drummer around San Francisco, and I was ready for the gig, but I auditioned, and then, 1 week later, I was a star all over the world with credibility because I was with Frank Zappa. There was Maynard Ferguson, there was Buddy Rich. If you were a horn player, if you
Yeah.
played with him, man, you
You
were
were
you were good,
you were
and
good, yeah.
all these kinds of things have because of the politics, because of the greed, because of the collapse of the music business as it was, talent, quality, the collapse of the music school systems to educate, musicians, and the lack of places to play, and the support for it. There really has been a dwindling of the culture that could enable somebody like you or I to go out and make a living. Around the time when you were a kid,
Yeah.
you talk about,
Yeah.
say, 75. Now,
I was born in '75.
right, you were born in 75.
old.
I'm out on the road with Frank
Yeah.
Zappa, and we would go out, and there were Holiday Inns, and every place we'd stayed had a live band, and they were really good musicians playing covers or doing whatnot, but we would go and sit in with them. Frank would use these guys as a sort of a pond to draw talent from, and we got Adrian Belew from playing in a club somewhere in Nashville, and there was this thriving sort of scene. A year later, all those live rooms started to disappear, and there was a DJ playing
Yeah.
piped-in music, and all the musicians sort of disappeared. And after 3 or 4 years, that was it. Then it became clubs, and there was sort of a resurgence in the '80s with new wave and punk and things like that. But by the time I'd say the late '80s and '90s came around, it was pretty much you had to pay to play, or you had to bring in 90 to 100 people to a club in order to be able to play there.
It's still like that though.
Yeah, and that's
Still
that's an
pay to
awful
play.
thing. There
Yeah.
there really should be, I think, an educational bent on explaining to people that live music is important, that there is nothing like that experience. You can watch a DVD or you can watch a
Yeah.
concert on TV, but there's nothing like the feeling
Live.
you get
Yep.
from live music in
From
a
live.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and we should be sort of promoting the education of musicians who can thrill an audience live and keep a culture alive. And the internet and regulatory agencies should be monitoring the pirate sites. I mean, there's videos I've done that people have taken and they put on, what they're called torrent sites, and it's very very difficult to shut them down and trace them, and I don't get money for that. And
Yeah.
then how does one expect an artist to stay alive if his product can't be sold for something?
Yeah.
So
Back to like the whole talent. Not. I have so many students that are so talented. At early ages, they're better than some of these players that are on the radio. And it's a shame that they're in their basement. It's just if they were able to get that chance. Like I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I'm very fortunate to even be here sitting with you.
I feel the same way.
I mean, it's just unbelievable that when I was 11 years old, I got my first experience with you. And then I've been a huge fan and been influenced and studied you since then. And now I'm going to be 37 in March. And now I'm sitting with you. This is just dreams could happen if you work hard enough,
Yeah.
and if you could get that chance.
Yeah.
And I'm marketing myself as a player, and I've been getting recognition from my marketing skills and my promotion of my teaching and what I do. Versus being in a band and getting that ride that way. Doing the session work and not committing to one band, I feel that more bands will want me to play drums for them. And this way, by doing a little bit of projects here and there, kind of like what you do, I'll get a little bit more recognition, and I'm not just doing the one style or whatever. So, there's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to get more of it out.
Yeah, it would
more of
be
them out
great.
here.
I mean, I had opportunities when I was in San Francisco when I was young in the early '70s. There was still commercials being done. There was a local music scene. There was a strong union. There was a thriving club scene that was you could play at. You could, you know, I made anywhere from 2 to 30 or 40 bucks a night playing with some of the greatest jazz musicians that ever lived. But in spite of that, we got to play for the music, and almost every day I had a different musical experience, you know, playing with a Woody Shaw, great jazz trumpet player, or Eddie Henderson, or a Latin situation here, or another experimental band here. And all these guys that I played with were involved in a studio scene, so suddenly there'd be a bank commercial or a radio spot, and you could go in and make, you know, whatever the session fee was, and then get some royalties. And you know, this kind of a opportunity was thriving. You know, now it's a very difficult and, you know, way more competitive situation, and those opportunities aren't there. You know?
There's a lot of drum teachers worldwide, and there's a lot of drum teachers in my town, even, you know, in the state of Illinois, and they're great players. You know, and there's a difference between great player and great teacher. You know, there's things that I looked for when I took lessons and being a player and teaching, as well as I wanted to be different and do things and offer something different. I actually got into the teaching thing by a complete mistake. I had no plan on teaching people. Mm-hmm. And the way that happened was in 1995, I was at a Guitar Center, and all of us, you know, would go to Guitar Center or to a music shop and check out their drums or their stuff that they had that you didn't have and fiddle around. And my friend worked there, and he's like, "Mike, you're awesome, man. Did you ever think about teaching the drums?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Why not?" I said, "Because I'm still learning. How do I teach somebody?" So he's like, "Well, you're always going to be learning your craft. Why don't you teach what you know? Make some cards up. I'll pass them out. See, you know, how you like it." I'm like, "All right, but if I do it, I'm going to do it differently." And then I started to get into the whole, you know, referencing the lessons by using some kind of aid. Mm-hmm. And it started off by me driving to students' houses. I was, you know, spending 2 hours a day driving just in travel time per day. And I would bring a boombox and a cassette tape. I'd teach the lesson, hit record on there, talk into the radio, play it, give them that, and then it just started growing. And all the money I made the first 4 years of teaching went into a savings account. I worked a full-time job, and after 4 years of teaching, I had quite a bit of money in that account where I invested that into marketing. I made a commercial and put it on like major cable networks, paid for airtime, ran it on MTV, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, stuff like that. And within just a matter of a month, I went from part-time teaching to full-time teaching, where I didn't have to drive anywhere anymore. And I had 25 people on an hour, you know, for hour classes on a wait list. And the local music shop down the street ended up losing almost their whole student drum lesson client base because of me, because I was right down the street teaching out of my home. And for 2 years, I tried getting a job there, and the owner called me up and said, "We can't have this. I need you on board," because I was taking their students away. So I was constantly wanting to think of ways, and I'm still doing it, trying to think of ways to get quality lessons out and teach as many people as I can, because now I love it. It started off as a sure mistake and no plans to being a teacher, and now I love it. There's nothing like showing somebody how to play something. They don't know how to hold sticks, and then all of a sudden they're recording in studios and they're playing, you know, with a, you know, American Idol person, you know, or they're on tour, you know, with this band, you know. It's just, and I help them get there. There's nothing like that, and that's what I love about teaching people. You know, right or wrong, I've taught them something. It's part of me that helped them. You know, and now after 17 years, you know, some of these students, I have students that stay with me for a very long time, and I have some students that have been with me 10 years, 12 years. I watched them grow up. You know, I had a girl start at age 6, all the way to 18, and she stopped taking lessons because she left to New Hampshire to be a surgeon, go to medical school. 12 years, I watched her completely grow up.
Mike, hang on just one second. We'll be right back after these announcements. Thank you for sharing your inspiration and your motivation and all that good, positive energy for the fellowship.
Thank you for
of
sitting
drum,
with me.
It's my pleasure, man.
And
this is my dream. Well, not my dream, but it's the dream I get to live here.
I need to share something real quick. I thought it was the coolest thing about Terry. When I was here yesterday setting up my drums, you know, he was actually fetching stuff for me. And
well, I'm a gear nut.
I know, but you were like grabbing like, oh, let me go get that for you. Let me go do. I'm like, no, let Chris or somebody else do it. No, I'll do it. Here, you can borrow my drop clutch. Not use it anymore. I couldn't believe it. I thought that was the coolest thing. And I mean, each time I met, you've always been so humble, and for a player at your stature to be able to take the time out to, sit with me, I think it's great, man.
Well, what's the point of being stuck up or whatever, or full of yourself, But, for me, I feel the same, and I've experienced so much of this fellowship of whatever. I may share an idea with somebody who gets excited about it, or they share ideas with me and I get excited about it. And sometimes I'm a little overwhelmed here because you got guys coming in that just have things you really desire to have, but you haven't got the time to put into, making it happen like they've done. And so you have to just kind of live with yourself where you're at. But other guys, have shared wonderful things that have become so much a part of my being and part of my expression that, I can't thank them enough. So yeah, that's the beauty of sharing what we do have, no matter what it is. There was this guy, Norman Vincent Peale, wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, a long time ago, I think in the 50s. And I'll never forget this one example he had in there of, he was in Ireland, and his wife and he went on separate outings during the day on a little vacation. And she came back and she gave him this present. And so he opened it, he was all excited, and it was a hat. And he kind of got this disappointed look on his face. He goes, oh, it's a hat. Well, I don't wear hats. So, but he opens it up and he looks inside, and stitched into, embroidered into the lining was, my name is Joe Blow and I made this hat. I live here on this little stream and it's got this little, bucolic scene here, and I raise these sheep and, we dye the wool and cut it, and this hat, is the best I could do, and it's like made strong enough so that it's going to last a long time, but also loose enough so it'll be comfortable to wear, and I really hope it gives you a lifetime of enjoyment. And he just said, man, that is the key to life right there. What a beautiful lesson. Even though I don't wear a hat, this guy just makes a simple hat and does it to the best of his ability with all those good intentions, and that is the secret of life right there.
That's exactly how I try to do my teaching.
Right
Musically, theory, I try to do as correctly as I can explaining it, and if it's not the exact theory way, I try to do it the Mike way,
Great. So Mike, for our listeners here, why don't you let them know how you can get in touch with them, or how they can get in touch with you. I'm sorry about that. And it's chicagodrumlessons.com.
Right? Yep.
And you have, 4 teachers teaching under you?
Yeah, top students of mine teaching under me and myself. There's a little over 300 students weekly taught. I teach about 120 of those.
That's amazing.
7 days a week.
So for all you other teachers out there, if you have students that you're teaching and you want to be affiliated with Drum Channel, please get in touch with us and let's see how we can work together to, give everybody a better educational experience. Well, man, once again, thanks so much, and let's go over and fool around on the drums.
All right.
We'll be right back. the other one in.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, man, thanks so much, Mike. I sure appreciate it, brother.
Man, it's awesome. Thank you so
It's
much.
fun for me, too. Mike Semerau.
Terry Bozzio.
All right, we'll see you next time on Drum Channel.